drugs were there. I did not put the narcotics there.
Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy and guilty of the crime of in the first degree and guilty of the crime of battery.
The center console.
The reactions of police officers to life sentencing expose a stark contrast between their roles as law enforcers and as convicts. Facing life imprisonment, these officers grapple with profound emotional and psychological challenges. The impact of their sentencing extends beyond the individual, affecting their families, communities, and the broader perception of law enforcement. This dynamic underscores the complexities of justice and accountability in the criminal justice system. LaQuenda Banks and Derek Holman were police officers, while Curtis Traylor Harris was their boss. One day, the three were sent to a pastor's house to serve an eviction notice. When they saw that no one was home, they started searching the house and took items of value. While Banks was doing this, her boss, Harris, did not stop her. Unbeknownst to Banks, her body camera was recording all of these moments. Later, the pastor's family filed a report claiming $10,000 worth of goods were missing.
Hold on.
The three officers were charged with official oppression and property theft. Banks was sentenced to a 14-month probation period, while Harris received 5 years of probation and a $10,000 fine.
Were you aware of what she was doing? No. Did you have any coordination in what she was doing? No.
The actions of my deputies that day and the inaction of me to stop it from happening, I sincerely apologize to them for that. First, I'd like to publicly offer an apology to the Foster family. I've worked my entire life to get here. I put myself through the academy twice, and it's just something I want to do my entire life. So, just the thought of it not being able to do it anymore, it's devastating, but I just want to be able to move on from it.
So, you never see me pick up anything or conceal anything or hide anything on my person. There's been one thing after another when they're trying to find me doing something wrong or illegal to get me out of office and put somebody else that they want to be in there.
The third officer, Derek Holman, was given a clean slate as he was unaware of what his colleagues were doing. The next one is Giovanni Crespi, a former Newark police officer, was involved in a high-speed chase in January 2019. During the chase, Crespo shot and killed Gregory Griffin, the driver of the fleeing vehicle, and injured the passenger, Andrew Dixon. Crespo was found guilty of multiple charges, including aggravated manslaughter, aggravated assault, weapons offenses, and official misconduct. In June 2024, he was sentenced to 27 years in prison. The case drew significant attention due to the controversial use of deadly force and the body camera footage used as evidence during the trial. Then we have Zachary Wester, former deputy with the Jackson County Sheriff's Office in Florida, was involved in a high-profile case where he was found guilty of planting drugs on innocent motorists during traffic stops.
How about this, son?
That is not mine. No, sir.
Okay. Honesty's gonna go a long way with me, okay, man?
Yeah.
All right, I've got to test this. The center console.
No way, man.
That was a slick move, man. Very slick move.
Mine, man.
Go ahead and put your hands
No,
on
hell no, that ain't mine.
This case came to light in 2019, and Wester was convicted on 17 charges, including racketeering, official misconduct, fabricating evidence, false imprisonment, and possession of controlled substances. In July 2021, he was sentenced to 12.5 years in prison.
You were sentenced to serve a total of 12 years, 6 months, and 8 days in the Florida Department of Corrections.
The case received widespread attention due to the breach of public trust and the significant impact on the lives of those he falsely accused. Adding another to this list, we have Derek Chauvin and Tu Thao. Derek Chauvin and Tu Thao were both involved in the tragic death of George Floyd on May 25, 2020. Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck for over 9 minutes, while Thao held back bystanders trying to intervene. Both were found guilty of charges related to Floyd's death. Chauvin was sentenced to 22 years and 6 months for unintentional second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter on state charges. For federal charges, he was sentenced to 21 years for violating George Floyd's civil rights, with the sentences running concurrently. Tu Thao was sentenced to 4 years and 9 months for aiding and abetting manslaughter. On federal charges, he received 42 months for depriving George Floyd of his constitutional rights.
3 years of reflection. I was hoping for a little more remorse, regret, acknowledgement of some responsibility, and less preaching. Our sentence to 57 months in prison with credit for 340 days already served. This sentence will be concurrent with your federal sentences.
Following the high-profile convictions of Derek Chauvin and Tu Thao, the legal system faced another critical test with the case of Eric DeValconaire.
And as I acquired the front sight, I discharged around Tuesday center mass.
Eric DeValconaire, a former detective with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, was involved in the fatal shooting of Cameron Lamb in December 2019. Lamb was shot in his own driveway, allegedly following a car chase. DeValconaire was convicted in 2021 of second-degree involuntary manslaughter and armed criminal action. He was sentenced to 3 years for manslaughter and 6 years for armed criminal action, with the sentences to run consecutively.
As to count 1, in which defendant is charged with the Class C felony of involuntary manslaughter in the first degree, the court finds the defendant guilty of the lesser included offense of involuntary manslaughter. If the defendant chooses to file a motion for new trial, his deadline for doing so is extended 10 days. I will order the defendant remain free on bond pending sentencing. Cameron Lamb is dead, and Eric DeValconaire killed him. That's undisputed. Cameron Lamb is dead. Eric DeValconaire killed him. Eric DeValconaire on count 1, the Class E felony of involuntary manslaughter in the second degree, I sentence you to a term of incarceration in the Missouri Division of Adult Institutions of 3 years. On the unclassified felony of armed criminal action, I sentence you for a total term of incarceration of 6 years.
The case drew significant attention and controversy, particularly regarding the legality of DeValconaire's actions and the evidence presented. In October 2023, DeValconaire lost his appeal and a judge ordered his arrest. Just as the DeValconaire case brought intense scrutiny on police conduct in the United States across the Atlantic, the actions of Wayne Couzens shocked the public and highlighted similar issues in the UK. Wayne Couzens, a former Metropolitan Police officer in the UK, was convicted of the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Sarah Everard in March 2021. While off duty, Couzens falsely identified himself as a police officer to stop Everard as she was walking home in South London. He handcuffed her, forced her into his car, and drove to a remote area in Kent, where he raped and murdered her. Couzens pleaded guilty to the charges and was sentenced to life imprisonment with a whole life order, meaning he will never be eligible for parole. Parallel to these tragic events, Daniel Holtzclaw's crimes underscored the severity of abuse of power within the law enforcement community, revealing systemic flaws that persisted despite geographical boundaries. Daniel Holtzclaw, a former Oklahoma City police officer, was convicted in December 2015 of multiple counts of rape, sexual battery, and other sexual offenses. He was found guilty on 13 charges involving 8 different women. Holtzclaw abused his position as an officer to target vulnerable women, often running background checks to find information he could use to coerce them into sex.
Defendant is guilty of the crime of forcible oral sodomy and guilty of the crime of in the first degree and guilty of the crime of battery and set punishment at 8 years. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition and punishment is set at 5 years.
He was sentenced to 263 years in prison, effectively a life sentence. The case garnered significant attention due to the nature of the crimes and the abuse of power involved. Holtzclaw continues to maintain his innocence and has attempted appeals, but they have been denied. Similarly, the case of Amber Geiger echoed the themes of misuse of authority and racial tensions, as her actions led to the tragic loss of Botham Jean in his own home.
I can't see where his hands are going, and so at that point I feel like you're gonna kill me. And so I shoot 2 times.
Amber Geiger, a former Dallas police officer, was convicted of murdering Botham Jean in his apartment on September 6, 2018. Geiger claimed she mistakenly entered Jean's apartment, thinking it was her own, and shot him, believing he was an intruder.
Get up, man.
Dallas 911, this is Carla. Where's your emergency?
Hi, this is an off-duty officer. I need EMS. I'm an off-duty officer. I thought it was in my apartment, and I shot a guy thinking it was my apartment. Hey, bud, they're coming, bud. I'm sorry, man. Oh, my God, I'm done. I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna lose my job. No.
She was sentenced to 10 years in prison for murder. Additionally, she was ordered to pay nearly $100 million in a civil wrongful death lawsuit to Jean's family.
We, the jury, find unanimously that the defendant did not cause the death of Botham Jean while under the immediate influence of sudden passion arising from an adequate cause, and assess the defendant's punishment at 10 years imprisonment in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.
The alarming trend continued with Jalen Fleer, whose predatory behavior while in a position of trust further tarnished the reputation of law enforcement officers. Jalen Fleer, a former San Diego County Sheriff's deputy, was sentenced to 12 years in prison for molesting minors. Fleer pleaded guilty to 20 felony and misdemeanor charges related to sex acts with underage girls and attempting to meet up with minors for sexual purposes. The offenses occurred over a short period in March and April 2020. He was also required to register as a sex offender for life. Meanwhile, Michael Amiot's excessive use of force during a routine traffic stop brought to light the everyday risks that marginalized communities face when encountering the police. Michael Amiot, a former Euclid, Ohio police officer, was involved in a controversial case stemming from a 2017 traffic stop. During the stop, Amiot was caught on video repeatedly punching Richard Hubbard. The incident led to charges of misdemeanor assault and interfering with civil rights. In 2022, Amiot was found guilty and sentenced to 1 year of non-reporting community control and a $1,000 fine. A 90-day jail sentence was initially announced but later suspended.
We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, do hereby find the defendant Michael Amiot guilty of assault, a misdemeanor of the first degree.
How that's done. The court at this time will impose a sentence of 90 days, require you to pay a fine of $1,000, suspend the sentence of 90 days, place you on non-reporting community control for a period of 1 year.